Yep. So we're streaming. So go ahead and go live on all the channels. Folks, we're about 30 seconds away from going live, just to give you a heads up.
Recording is on.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Grateful for you taking the time and showing up. Today is November 3rd, which is the first Thursday of November. And we're focused on a town hall meeting for the digital world. The digital world is primarily made up of committees that are in the process of being formed. Before we can actually go live with the material site for the digital world, we have to have the voting app live to be able to make sure that we have consensus with folks around as we actually do certain things. We'll go through some of those things here in a second. This is a private membership of meeting, which under a private membership association, some of the things we talked about here are protected under that. Some of the things we may talk about may be forward-looking, as it's a crazy concept, but we're going to show you much more than a concept. So if you want to log in, you can do so and actually ask questions at townhall.clear.events, or you're welcome to log in, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, as well as on Reddit, and it's also streaming on Twitter nowadays. So a lot has happened over the last month with Twitter, and so there's actually going to be some streams that'll also flow there. We're thankful for you taking your time and for joining. We've got a lot of updates this month. We basically will provide general updates, and then we will go and have open questions. One of the things we'd like to accomplish is actually show you in real time actually how it works and the system actually functions real time. So again, thank you for taking the time. One of the first advancements is really around digital life. So digital life is actually an app that replaces ClearLife for ClearPhones, but it works on every Android device, at least past version 5, Android 5 is what we've noticed. So you can basically get 12 words. I wonder if this interface actually has it. No, it doesn't. But it's basically what you've come to expect with cryptographic systems. So where you've got, I'm going to try and just zoom in here so you can kind of see. You do not have to have a Clear phone or a Freedom phone or an Armor phone to have this work. It works on any system that is an Apple or an Android-based phone. It does not work on Apple, and it never will, that we're aware of. So we've tried different ways, and the cryptography is just not going to flow on an Apple ecosystem because Apple owns their own cryptography keys. There's no way to get down to the root side of it. So you basically can, just like you do with ClearLife, for those that use it, you can install this on any Android phone. And if you install it on a Clear phone, it will automatically use ClearLife and override it. So basically, you put 12 words in. When you put those 12 words in, it also gives you the ability to scan those 12 words. So you can actually, I'm just going to verify one quick thing. Yeah, we're fine. So you can basically scan it with a QR code, or you can input your 12 words. If you've already built an environment that has data in it, that data will start replicating. You need to make sure that you have the certain apps that it comes with, though. Right now, the apps are not replicating, so you have to download the apps. That's what this interface right here looks like. So literally, you can see it tells you which apps you have installed or you have not installed. So that's a feature that comes built in. It also, you just click on it and it takes you right to the app. So it's really intuitive there. If you ever lose your primary master key, you can actually click on it. You'll need your fingerprint to view it. You can click on it under settings here. The navigation is a little bit different. It's very clean and simple. You've got settings here, you've got add individuals here, and then you've got scan here. And when you scan, you're actually going to be able to log into the digital world, which we're going to do here in a little while. So basically, you would use this app to actually operate in the digital world. So let's say that you wanted to log in, you could either do so here as a member. The resident and citizen option are not available, or you can do within the navigation. So there's also a small window that this QR code actually works, and a small window that the scanning on your system will actually work as well. So one of the things we want to do is an actual demo of this, which we will do here in a little while. We also want to tell you that as a part of this digital world, there's additional apps from Clear Software that will be really grandfathered in for those that are already coming in, primarily to give you the tools and the technologies to actually collaborate. Kind of like we're all online today, multiple people can watch this from different streams, but are they actually able to interact with it? I'm going to actually make sure that we've got audio because I haven't. Yeah, no, we're good. So to be able to log in and interface with this technology, or at least to ask questions, or at least to start the voting process, you can do it all in a decentralized manner. But to actually get the council set up, to collaborate, to interface, Clear One is a technology that's important. It's very imperative. And what it basically does, it's not just email, calendar, contacts, tasks, channels, but it's this meeting technology here that's really important for folks to actually understand. So we're going to come into just the meeting technology, which replaces Zoom. So there's two different pieces of it. One that's webinar based, and that goes up to 10,000 concurrent users, and one that is meeting based. And that you can kind of see the difference right here, where you can select a different meeting room or presentation that's kind of built into it. I want to also remember Jerry Ulich and the team around him that literally helped to make this technology a reality. We're grateful for him, his energy, his efforts. For those of you that don't remember, about 4 months ago, he passed away. And that was about 2 months after he completed over a decade's worth of work with this technology. I won't talk too much about it because I struggle with it still, but we'll just leave it there. So basically, this is meeting technology where you can literally have one-to-many or many-to-many interactions. So that's one interface, or in this interface here, you've got many folks connecting to many folks. They can share screens, they can share videos, they can do both. And there is a polling technology built into that. But for those folks that are actually signing up now and using it, you can literally get in and crank it, but or I shouldn't say crank it. You can actually use it as a part of the digital world. So it's actually going to spawn over. And there's features and functions that actually tie to it that are a little bit higher than what you're actually seeing here. For instance, this live streaming, the encryption streaming, all of that stuff is all built in and comes with it. There's also an element of support if you need it. For those that have not used ClearCare support, you can do so on a Clear phone and or at clear.software.com. Clear.support.com. Oh, sorry, clear.support. So you'll see it here. And this is, general questions about two features and functions within Clear One, which is primarily around how do we actually build systems. So for those that want to help build the digital world, this is actually how it happens. So you can see, features, functions, requests, different types of interfaces, different tasks, and you can see how they're going through the design phase process and kind of who owns it, how are they accountable, who's doing what by when. So that's on the project side, and then this is on. I'll actually show you how the conferencing works, text. So this is on the conferencing side. So we're actually using this technology to communicate today, but it will be available to all members in the digital world. Now, there's going to be an element of that digital world where, and I need to actually pull up Figma. While that's coming up, I'll jump to another topic around Clear Signal has been updated. It actually has some pretty robust grouping settings built into it. So you can go and add, multiple people that actually have secure communications. So this will not work with SMS or MMS, which is text or multimedia messages like photos or GIFs, but it will work with, secure messages that basically, you can do group calling, you can do screen share, you can do files, PDFs, images, many images, up to 30 images at a time. And what's nice about it is your derived keys actually tie to it. So that's really, that's an important element to understand is ClearSignal actually uses parts and pieces of the restore and backup systems that are built into it. So it's one of the first pieces just right after the digital life or clear life technology. So those are really the parts and pieces that are important elements. One of the is just an update on the voting app. The first reiteration that we started testing on was a complete failure. There's a new team that's building it, and literally we will be starting from scratch, if you will, and just basically using the same specs and requirements, but we will be starting over on that. So the sad thing is we can show you the digital world site ecosystems and even some of the HTML pages, but we can't go live with them unless we've had a vote prior to being able to go live. There's just too much there, and there's too many questions that everyone really needs to be involved with and asking. So I'll go through some of that right now. So when we get into it, we're really talking about an ecosystem that combines identity for the individual, the organization, and an organization's like company or an association and much more, and then assets. So those are the three things we're going to walk through, but we're also going to kind of give you a sneak peek as to the different parts of it. If you haven't read the Declaration of Unity, I really urge you to do so. Very important document. It's really the basis for what the digital world is actually built upon. Digital Life is the app that we just talked about. It's both Clear Life and Digital Life work with it. And then it ties to a type of decentralized identity. The apps that we just talked about, they're actually not just Clear apps for the digital world, but you're seeing the first Digital Life app that is actually, again, I'll pull this up. This is actually specific for the general populace. So it's for any Android app or any Android phone that can be built into it. You also have the server side of it. Most of the folks here are not running nodes, but that's the lifeblood of this ecosystem is basically folks that in their home or in their businesses or even other ecosystems. Like this morning, we talked about some, what's the right way to call it? They're basically a tribe, 40 million acres, and they want to basically plug it into different infrastructure on their tribe. But that's running the server side of it that then connects into the phones that runs transactions as well as storage that's decentralized. So this is some of the technology that's there. There's well over almost 17 years in development for that, but that'll also be contributed to as if they want it. If they don't, then there's no worries there as well. Different phones. I'm just going to kind of go through the high levels. Logins, which we're going to show you soon. The storage and really the basis of the model. So this is how it all connects together. So a decentralized front end connected to a decentralized back end that basically restores. An online notary system. So not only there's a digital representation of who we all are, like where we go, what we do. Imagine a technology like Signal also wrapping in other communication platforms. Imagine pulling in Facebook Messenger. Imagine pulling in Twitter, LinkedIn, any of the messaging platforms for these different platforms, including Signal. Imagine pulling all of that in to an app that then basically reviews what you do. But it's not analyzing what you're sending. It's not analyzing images. It's not even seeing them. All it does is validate that you are actually a human. We believe that it can prove 95% assurity. Some people say a lot more. We want to be very conservative. That it's an actual individual. Think about it. If you can see Facebook data that says that this individual has been on Facebook since X year and has Y number of friends and has sent Z number of messages and responds in F number of minutes, you can literally validate with 99% assurity that that is an individual. You don't need to know who they are. You don't need to know what they're sending. But imagine you layer on top of that an ability to actually have a type of notary. So someone that actually uses similar technology, like what ClearOne is, to actually do a real-time interaction of saying hello, of saying, hey, can you actually pull out an ID and pop that ID up and say, for instance, this ID is me, front, scan, back, validate, check. Those three things are actually the most advanced validating software uses that same process. What they do is they take any kind of ID. It could be a library card. It could be a driver's license. It could be an identification card. It could be a passport. But what they're doing is they're validating the front of it. And I'm not showing mine by design. And then they also validate the back of it. And then they validate those together as an ID. Because IDs nowadays have a couple different things. I won't go into the detail there. But for instance, this is an old ID of mine that doesn't have a little yellow star at the top of it. There's a lot of, when you talk about what they call real IDs and they have the star, there's a lot of depth to actually how those are built. But can you guarantee that that individual is actually linked to the face and interactions? So there's actually an automated process and then a manual process to do the validation side of it. So we'll basically talk about that, but the digital notary is a very big part of it. Digital identification, that's another piece of it. Notice in the digital world, you have a digital surname. So you've got a first name and then you've got a cryptographic key that actually links as a derived key for your surname. That's also one of the identifiers. So imagine, by the way, this last month we had the opportunity to meet with some of the folks from Fair Isaac Company, FICO, and really just kind of understand who are they, where they come from, why is it valued, where is the data stored? Okay, so the data stored within the credit bureaus. You know, in the United States, that's Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, but the actual algorithm for that data is pushed through FICO for people to then get scores. What's crazy is now they're starting to keep multiple different kinds of scores. So you have a mortgage FICO score and you have a normal FICO score. So think about it. The actual folks that are actually funding something behind your credit want to look and analyze it in a very different way. So imagine in a digital world where you have these derived keys that basically say, this is someone that has a wallet, and these are the derived keys. Imagine a list, your own list that basically says, I have an ID like this, right? I have a digital wallet. I have an application that I use. I have, let's say that you use Facebook. I have a calendar. I have SMS messages. I have like Clear Signal. These are all using derived keys with all these different apps, especially apps that are related to, I'm going to pull it up here, to any of these market. Where's it at? It's not even there. I'm going to pull up Clear app, or it's actually, what is it? ClearOS.app. And if you go to Marketplace, you'll see these different apps. These top ones actually individually have derived keys. So these actually have derived keys built into them. But all these other apps, you can actually have proof behind usage of them. So there's usage here, but up top, you'll actually have some derived key elements. So imagine if someone actually wants to spoof an identity, they can go and create all these different things. And they can even say, hey, I want to use these in proving that who I am, that I'm a real human, but you don't need to know my name, but you do need to validate, you know what? I actually have a job. I actually have income. I actually have an education. I actually have health and this, blah, blah, blah. You can basically build different derived keys for many different walks of life. And then the individual can say, I want to actually use that in my reputation score. Let me see if I can find an interface that shows you what that reputation score is. So imagine, if you wanted to be able to go from here to here, you basically act, the longer that you do it over time as a part of the calculation, just like in the credit world, the more lines of credits that you've actually paid, the better, right? So, I mean, there's a gentleman yesterday. Was it yesterday? What is today? Thursday? So yeah, it was yesterday, where he makes, I won't even say the number, crazy amount of money. I don't know an individual that runs a normal job that actually makes the kind of money that he's made. Usually people make it in other ways, but has no debt, has already had a mortgage, paid it off, but because he hasn't had an auto loan, he actually can't get underwritten and actually get an auto loan. So my point in all of this is imagine a world where it takes much more data sets into effect, but the individual actually is in control of it. For instance, how many of us are actually in control of our Equifax score or data, or the neighbor that they say is next to us, or the address they say we lived at? We can go through and say, hey, this is, for instance, one of the ways to actually validate an individual is to say, out of these three numbers, which ones did you call yesterday? But is that data within Equifax? No, it's within your cellular provider. Can you log into your cellular provider and actually grab that? Question mark. Some people can, some people can't. But I'm trying to throw at you an understanding of that as data that you can provide proof to. For instance, you can log into your bank. And what if you allow a system to log into your bank and actually say, these are the transactions we transacted on yesterday, and that's a part of validating your identity. So right now, FICO or Fair Isaac, that creates the algorithm for credit scores, and TransUnion, Equifax, Experian in the US, which are the most advanced credit companies, at least from a reporting standpoint, they work together to come up with these different scores. And my point is, the data sets that they're coming up with are not driven by the individual. They're not even selected by the individual. But imagine if an individual can come through and actually say, I want to actually let my posts, not see my posts, but show that I've actually validated that I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on SMS messages, I'm on these other apps. And like with 99% of surety, you can validate that's a human. That's a human that is a unique, independent individual. And then you do this a real notary process. It's a digital notary that you can do at scale. And then you literally validate these people into this ecosystem of saying, I want to be a digital resident. Here, I'll go to the bottom of this page. I'll zoom into this. Well, I don't know that I can zoom in on this one. Yeah. So I want to be a digital member, a resident, a citizen. And in so doing, there's things that you've got to go to. See if I can find an example. Oh boy. That was what I was looking for. So imagine if there's steps to being able to go through that. So member, resident, citizen. And this is the type of stuff we have to vote on. We can't just go live with this. By the way, these are all in HTML. They're ready to go live, but we're really waiting on that voting app. Once that voting app comes in, we can start standing up the councils. The members can start meeting on their own, coming up with their own structure, but really self-selecting what they want this world to be, telling other people about it, starting to use it. So I'm going to just, if you want, we'll go through questions before I actually go through a full demo of logging in, creating an entity, creating an asset, linking that asset, and then sharing that asset. So those 5 steps. So questions, thoughts, comments before I blab on those 5 steps? If not, I can just jump to the 5 steps. It's kind of awkward because in the digital world, you got to have an ecosystem that actually starts itself. And it's got to be started, at least ignited with a spark or something somewhere. So we know that is something we signed up for and willing and happy to do. So I'll go ahead and get started unless there's Go ahead.
I have a question, Michael. Okay, so I came on the call late. Um, can you explain to me, can you, in layman's terms, what is this digital world? What would be what would be the purpose for me to use the digital world, to use this, the digital world? Maybe I came in too late to the conversation.
No, I think that's the basis of the question on the 5 steps I just wanted to run you through. So thank you for asking it. What I'll do is I'll just mouse over. I'm going to navigate on the interface that you all see here. I'm actually just going to go to the main page here. Okay. I'm also going to pull up a phone. Hopefully you see a video stream. I know there's multiple channels and some people may not. I'm pulling up Clear Life. If you don't have a Clear phone, just use Digital Life on any Android phone. So I'm actually, if you want to do this with me, you're welcome to do it. But I'm actually going to click on Scan QR Code, and it's going to pull up an interface like this. I'm going to say Scan here, and I'm going to mouse over here, and I'm just going to say Scan it. So it's basically scanned and approved here. You see it logged in there. Now, that's the first part of one of the answers to your question is I've just logged in to an interface that is actually a ton of decentralized storage, identifiers, manipulators that basically is just a view into what the world would call a blockchain ecosystem. So some have ledgers, some have triple ledgers, some have ledgerless. But what we can actually see are different. Imagine if I have done certain things with my contacts, calendar, mail, phone calls, and they literally are just built into this digital world here. So right now, most of you have all of this data in multiple systems. Your healthcare data has a certain login to it. Your banking data has logins to it. Your credit data has logins to it. There's literally data, and maybe I can find a chart. I don't know if I've got it in this slide deck. Yeah, right here. So you've literally got data all over the place. Banks, health, taxes, your searches that you do. You know, maybe you're on prescription medicine. Maybe you've got certain records in the medical world. You know, all of these different things basically can pull in as an identity into this ecosystem. And it's not just validating who you are. You can literally pull data sets into this. We won't talk about that right now, but the simple, one step is I logged in with a decentralized identity. I would argue and request anyone to be able to show a cryptographic key, logging into an interface. One, I just logged in. Just that simple ability to validate something that I am based upon a fingerprint and a derived key from a device that is encrypted based upon who I am. And let's just say, no, I have an Android phone, it's a Samsung phone, and it's not encrypted, and I just downloaded Digital Life. Well, that actual 12 words and in combination with your finger is still an element of form of encryption. And then there's a derived key that actually logs in. And I won't spend a lot of time talking about the derived key, but what I do want to show you is you can create an organization, a business, an association, a trust, and much, much more is coming. Special purpose vehicles or special purpose entities or private membership associations or tons of stuff. You want to build a trust for a home. You want to build a trust for a vehicle. Those are 2 different examples, but you could literally follow it all the way through based upon what you set it up as. So in this case, let's go ahead and set up a society.
You set up a business for Jay on Tuesday's Ripple Effect.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw you do that, and I think it's incredible. But now, how would Jay be doing business? Where's the money exchange, or is there an exchange, or how does he do business with that?
Great question. And what we're really building here, Daniela, is a parallel system to the existing centralized system. So the current financial system that you're used to uses cash or credit cards or what they call digital money, or what they're actually calling, and this was signed by a certain individual in the White House February this year, around programmable money. Okay.
Yes, of course.
So
Yay.
yeah, so yeah, we'll call it just centralized money. Okay. So we're building a parallel system to that centralized ecosystem that is truly decentralized. That's why that identity and that login is so important. That's why that reputation and that notarization is so imperative. But
so we'll be able to operate outside the current or the current and the new financial system that the whoever they are coming in with. We'll be able to be secure and to be able to transact.
that's exactly right.
Are you kidding me?
Not only that, but we're going to show it to you within the next 2-3 minutes, literally right now. Because on Tuesday, you saw us create, what was it?
Jmail. It was Jmail.
Jmail. And I don't see him on here. I did see him on earlier. I don't see him on now.
Yeah, I saw him on earlier.
So since Jay's not on, let's go ahead and create a new organization. We're going to call this Wallyville. And we're going to call this as a society. Okay.
Okay.
And what's crazy is Wallyville, does it actually have a website.com? Is that actually available today? I'm going to push this button. It's not available, right? So when we come in here, we're also going to click on a button here that says we're actually going to register this. So we're going to come in and see if Wallyville is actually available. By the way, this is from Clear Center, which does about 12,000 of these right now, is from an annual standpoint. So you can see Wallyville is actually, it's already been registered. So .com has been registered. So let's think through it. So Wally, why don't you unmute and plan on sharing a screen here in a second. So let's go to something simple. Let's call it Wallyville. Maybe there's one around land. You know what? Let's call it Wally Land instead of Wallyville. Okay. So Wally Land, wally.land is the URL. Let's see if that's available. It is available. See that? Wally Land is available. Okay. So we're actually going to submit this. Actually, we're going to reserve this domain. We're going to register for 1 year. This particular .land top level domain, this is going to be Wally Land. No company. I'm not going to mess with the rest of this stuff just for time's sake. What did I do wrong?
Company cannot be left blank.
Okay. Thank you for your help. Those are simple things. Okay, so we're gonna check that out. We're actually gonna purchase it. We're gonna continue. This particular account has a credit line to it. We're going to use a purchase order. Most folks would actually pay with a digital asset, different conversation. The world's like, how do I get these digital assets? Well, this is actually how. So we're going to confirm that. So that actually completed. So the invoice for it and the DNS record for it is here. So you can actually see Clear Center, a service provider to the digital world, actually sold a URL to Wallyland, which is actually a real registered digital location now. When I say digital location, I'm talking Wallyland is actually a site that literally, if we went and put a website IP address in here and we said that www resolves to that, you can actually go for it. It'll actually come up. So it resolves to it. If I'm going to try and zoom in here, if you actually wanted to have other domains, so maybe it's not www.wallyland, but it's app.wallyland or map.wallyland. Or if you wanted to set it up with Google Apps or with the mail system that's within, most folks haven't actually used the mail system that it comes with this digital world that's on the way to a truly decentralized system. But I'll go through that in a second. Reminds me, Wally, would you remind me to share a video at the end of this that ties to that decentralized topic? Okay, so what we've basically done is we've registered a domain. So now we actually have a place inside of this digital world. So we've got wally.land, right? And we'll just say it's www. We'll put that resolver in there. Land. Okay. We're not going to scan this. We're just going to leave it like that. Now, when I actually push this button, we're actually truly interacting with the blockchain. So there is no physical presence for this ecosystem. So you don't need to plug that in. If you do want a physical address, you can actually build it, believe it or not. And it actually uses a physical address that sends a digital message. In this particular case, we're going to have this be Mr. at Wally.land. And we're going to choose a file here. Let's go and try and search Wally. That one might not work. So I'm going to use this for both of them. So what we're doing when I push add is actually building an association in the decentralized digital world. So it's created, it has one member, no assets. This is a derived key for me as all of my ecosystems. But let's say I want to add an asset to this. Okay, so we want to create Wally coin. What do you want to call it, Wally? Wally, you want it, first off, I guess, do you want it to be a coin, a token, or a reward?
Token.
Okay, token. So, and a token is like a commodity type thing. So it's not a public offering. It's not using speculation. It doesn't need to have registration or regulation. We're also going to pop in that same Wally. Let's see if I can find that again. We're going to use that as the icon. Hopefully it's not too big. What do you want the ticker symbol to be?
WLY.
Like that?
Sure.
You can do the full thing. I think it can go up to 8 to 10 characters if you want. So it could be Wally or WLY. You pick it.
Do Wally.
Okay. And the full name that you want to call it. So this is Wally Land.
Token.
Digital, which is called Wally Land. And then down here for the full one, Wally. Is there a place? Let's actually use this as an asset. Like, let's imagine that you actually purchased some land. Okay. Wally Land based in, let's call it
Wally World.
oh, okay, in Wally World. There you go, Wally World. Okay. And how many tokens do you want authorized?
Let's do 10 million.
Okay. And you want to issue all those right now? That way we can send it.
Yeah,
We
sure.
can literally send them all to you. So I'm going to go ahead and generate this asset. So we've got an image. We've got a type. By the way, once this is set, it can never be changed. And that's one of the values of really cryptographic elements. Again, cryptographic or crypto is cryptographic, which is really math. Okay. So when we do this, we're going to generate an asset, which was created, but it's actually not in my wallet yet, right? So, or in Wally's wallet. So we're going to actually come in here. We're going to grab the ClearPay wallet, which is not ClearLife. I'm going to blow it away and start over. You're going to see derived keys get created. So derived keys are being activated and created now. You'll see there's no Wally in this ecosystem. Okay. You don't see the word Wally. You don't see the asset or icon Wally today, right? Or at least right this second. But we're going to come in here and we're going to actually say create new organization, scan QR code, and we're going to come and scan this image that's here. Okay. So it asks for my fingerprint. And inside the process, it's actually saying you're going to issue native. So I'm going to spend my native asset that I've been given when I set up the digital world. And when people just download the digital world, they download the different apps, they can literally pull it in. So I'm going to put my finger on that. It didn't work the first time because I didn't put it on right. So you can see that it's actually coming around. So now it's asking, do I actually want to pay to have it dropped on my? So I actually paid 3 native to create it, 5 native to actually drop it on. I'm going to put my fingerprint on here now. So you notice that it's working there. Okay. And it's basically gone through. So So you can see in the interface here, as well as on my phone, your digital asset has been added. Please manage with your digital wallet. We recommend using ClearPay Wallet. Now, these assets will also flow into other wallets. It's not just Clear companies, but there will be other wallets that are service providers that can actually build in this ecosystem. I'm going to try and see it. It looks like mine are alphabetized, but you can see that digital asset created and put right there. Now, there's a ton of stuff that has actually occurred here that you've never seen before. Primarily because not many Nimrods out there spend a decade building something and then giving it away to the world. They're usually looking at how do we monetize it? How do we make money on this? Because why? We're natural humans. It's greed, it's pride, it's ego, it's all these things that is a natural driver in us to say, you know what? I don't want to share this. I don't want to give this. I don't want to go through the brain damage of creating something like this and then pushing it out to the world. But what I'm going to also show you is if Wally or anyone with a ClearPay wallet, if you could go in and what you do is you just open up your ClearPay wallet where it says add more, right there where it says add more. If you're running one of the latest versions of ClearPay, you should be able to say add more. Now, I don't need to because I've already created it and it's already added on mine. But if you say add more and scroll down, you should see Wally. So Wally, if you could turn your camera on and kind of share your user experience, I think you can do it simultaneously on Clear One and it'll stream there. There you go. And you'll probably have to turn off your filter so that I can, actually I already know your address so I can send it to you, but you'll have to turn off your background filter. So inside of Clear One, if you click on the little dots, and I want to believe it's under settings. No, it's not. Let's see here. I don't ever turn those things on.
So Michael, I have Jcoin now.
Then if you've got Jcoin, then what you should do, thanks, Wally. Daniela, so Wally, do you see Wally Coin there? Why don't you close your phone, both of you, Daniela, and anyone else that wants to get this distributed, just close, not turn off your phone, but close ClearPay Wallet so that it uses the derived keys to pull it back up again. Okay. Yep. So just kind of shut it down, start it back up. And sometimes it takes time, but this is using decentralized nodes to create the asset and then make it available and then transact the asset. So what we're looking for is on ClearPay, if you click add after you've opened it up in time or now, you should be able to see that new Wally asset that we just created. Anybody?
Michael, I have just closed the app by using the square at the bottom of our screen. Our app manager flicked the app up to close it, and then I've reopened the app. I've also gone to settings and cleared the cache on ClearPay. I am seeing Jcoin, but I believe that may have taken up to 24 hours to show since Tuesday. I'm not seeing Wally Coin.
Well, let's tell you what. Let's do a transaction with Jcoin while we're waiting. So for those of you that can see Jcoin, go ahead and click it and say watch it, and that'll put it in your actual wallet. Okay. Now, what's sad is Jay was on here earlier, and he was the one that we created it with him on Tuesday. So let's see if I can find Jcoin real fast. Okay.
Why do I have a circle with an exclamation mark beside a lot of the coins?
Because the icons are replicating. Now remember, this is a very different ecosystem. It's like building behind the scenes, and it's slower. The actual, let's see, Cheryl, I have, same for me. I have Jcoin. Whoever has Jcoin, if you just pull up, now this is not the right way to give you an example, but if you pull it up and then you click on the button that says receive, so you're going to see a QR code pop up like that. Pop it up, share your screen, and I'll actually show you how this all works.
I don't have receive.
So if you click on Jcoin,
Yep.
can you put that in a little bit, Wally? Can you? Okay, so go ahead and go ahead and go down and say watch. So, okay, so you're already watching. Go back to the screen there, Daniela. Just put your back arrow. Now scroll through your assets and you should see it. Wally, we'll go ahead and try you. Actually, we should, if Cheryl's up. Cheryl, do you have your receive QR code?
I'm now seeing Jcoin under organization accounts after selecting watch.
If anybody wants to just throw me a QR code, I can pull that up for you and send it to you. So Wally, you're welcome to do it while we're waiting for others. Okay, so I'm just going to scan this so everybody can kind of see it. What are we doing wrong here? Maybe it's just glare.
Might be.
I'm going to pull it off on a different monitor here real fast. Just kind of hold still for me. There we go. So notice, have folks show you, while they kind of show how many Jake. So you can see he's got a quantity of 0 there. And the sad thing is this is actually Jay's assets. Now, this is one of the things that's so important, why the individual or the entity that actually created this needs to have their own cryptographic process. Now, if I was doing this for and in behalf of Jay, which, by the way, if Jay comes on, which he was on, I know I want to say he's in Bangkok or something crazy time zone. I'm going to send you 5,000. I'm going to put my finger on it. Now, this is 100% using the digital world's system. So this is not using a centralized ecosystem. On my side, it's completed. I can actually run in and view the transaction. So on my side, for those looking, I can actually see the transaction here, and I can even view the details. Wally, yeah, there you go. Kind of pull it over where the camera sees it. Scroll down so they can see, or maybe go to the asset. Yeah, so you can see right there, he's already got it in a matter of a couple seconds there, Jcoin. There's the 5,000. So go ahead and click on that so they can see kind of the details. Camera a little bit over the other way. There you go. It's kind of backwards. So you can see the quantity there. Now, what's gorgeous is he can actually pull up. So let's say someone else, who else is ready to get some of this? Okay, so Cheryl says she found it now. Cheryl, if you want to just put your phone up, Wally, good luck scanning it. If it was any, I don't know why. There we go. She's putting it up, so you can actually, we'll go ahead and you can either scan her on mine. So Cheryl, you can kind of see, yeah, there you go. So you're gonna push the receive button so the QR code comes up, Cheryl.
Where do we get our QR code?
They're dynamically created based upon a derived key from your private master key. Okay, so try and hold as still as you can, and then Wally's going to scan you. And then Wally, let's say you got 5,000 from me. You give, send some to her. Know that we're going to always have to get this back to Jay. So that, because let's say that, you're good, Cheryl. You can take that down now. So go ahead and refresh, Cheryl. Actually, Wally, tell us once you've sent it. Here, so we can kind of see Wally here.
Okay, sending it right now.
So you put your finger on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, she sent 100. So 7 seconds. Now we come back up to Cheryl. Danielle, you're coming next. Cheryl, if you either refresh that or log out of ClearPay and log back in. And while you're doing that, we'll go ahead and let Daniela go ahead. Daniela, go ahead and put yours up. Just kind of hold it still here. I'm actually going to send those to you real fast. So I'm going to send you 5,000 as well.
Okay, so what I did is on the page where it says watch, I clicked on buy, and then I clicked on receive, and then Jay's QR code came up. Is
Yep.
that the process?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Go ahead and put that up again real fast. And tell me if you're seeing, I'll just do one thing at a time here for you so I don't confuse you.
How do I know if my wallet is set up?
It says it. I'm gonna pull you onto. I think I've got a lot of glare. There we go. Okay.
So is this my wallet here?
You have a checking account and you have a savings account. So let's see. So you're not signed up with your Visa. Click on rewards. Let me send you some rewards as well. That's a whole nother animal. Cheryl, I noticed that you chatted that you had actually received it. Can you just show your screen that shows the quantity there? You're on mute too. There you go. If you just want to show that on your video. So hold your phone up to your video that has the quantity of Jcoin. Yeah, kind of hold it closer so that it balances out the white balance. There you go. So you can see barely. Go ahead and there you go. Perfect. So you can see that Wally sent her 100. Now, if she scrolls down, she can actually see her transaction on all the details therein. So we basically created, so if you click down below where it says transaction details, see where it says that she received 100, go ahead and click on that. So this is an example of a digital asset. Now imagine we're talking about, an association with Wally Land. Yeah, it's your cameras, but you can see there that 100 was actually fully settled. So this isn't like Visa where you swipe a card and then 2 days later the merchant gets their funds. This is real-time settlement. This is next to zero costs. This is no government, no bank, no probate, no system in the middle of it. And oh, by the way, is there tax in a digital world when we created something that is separate and in parallel to these centralized systems?
Yeah.
If you go and convert it. So for instance, Daniela, and I don't want to confuse folks that just saw, and I'll try and put a bow on this. Literally, we just saw multiple things occur. We saw a digital asset get created. We saw a business get created. We saw, this little Wally token, 10 million of them get created. Okay. We saw a ledger actually get, an issuer and a distributor key that was created. So those are public ecosystems. But what you're not seeing is all of the cryptography behind the scenes, from the 12 words that I received to derive keys to activate Clear Life, to then log into a system, to then be able to create a digital company that has its own derived keys. That company or organization creates its own livelihood, its own reputation, its own ecosystem. What are its transactions? Does it have issues that have gone against it? I mean, there's so much to it. And then it created an asset. And let's say in this Wally land that this actually represents 10 million acres. Imagine the ability to prove that someone has an acre of land if they actually just got it. So for instance, Who was it that got it first? Cheryl. So Cheryl was able to get, I don't remember the quantity. Wally got 5,000. Let's say he got 5,000 acres. Cheryl, how many did you get? 100?
100.
So let's say that represents 100 acres. Okay. Now, the key that you got to kind of use your mind is this can represent any asset, any commodity, any currency, any equity. Now, the SEC is going to say, is it really a currency? Is it a commodity? Is it a security? And that's what they're trying to figure out today. I personally believe that this same technology, the root of this technology, like Stellar, like Ripple, these will be real-time transaction assets that can actually change how humanity operates. It's not like Ethereum or like Bitcoin or like others that are based on those, Raven coin based on Bitcoin, Gala coin based upon, Ethereum. But it's an ecosystem that others can create. So let's say Gala wanted to actually create an ecosystem like this, or that's probably not the right use case. Let's say that JP Morgan Chase didn't jump the gun. First they said, crypto is terrible. You don't want to touch it. And then Mr. Diamond behind the scenes is basically buying up BTC and other ecosystems. I can't even make these claims because I don't know. I wasn't there. But all I do know is a couple months later, the bank launches JP Morgan coin, JPM. But it's based upon Ethereum. Okay. Ethereum, in my opinion, is just an experiment, just like Bitcoin is an experiment. I'm going to pull up a comparison here real fast. Right here. So Bitcoin, now what this does is it looks at 14 billion US dollars value transferred over a 24-hour period, and they're comparing the cost and the transfer time. Bitcoin is over 10 minutes. Ethereum is over 3 minutes with a cost that's like jumps from 2,400 to 26 million. And then Visa doesn't even transfer in 3 to 5 seconds. It's like 2 days. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It's a day or 24 hours, but it costs 2.4% of every transaction. And oh, by the way, with this particular ecosystem, you're operating in US dollars or whatever currency you're operating in that your bank that issued you the Visa is domiciled out of. There's a possible transactable event around taxes. But if we've built a separate system and we say inside of this separate system that this digital money, and I won't, it breaks into tokens, rewards, coins, currency, equity, commodity. So there's going to be we'll talk a lot about that in the future, but basically 3 different archetypes. And what if this ecosystem, and this is why there has to be a lot of voting before we can go live, because I can't as an individual say, hey, this is how it's going to be. We have to have multiple people that are on multiple committees and councils say, this is what we want it to do. So in this digital world, we don't want there to be income tax, capital gains, property tax, use tax, and many others. What about maybe a death tax? Or there's tons of other taxes. And then what if you want to actually tie these wallets, which, by the way, the contacts have their own public keys based upon a decentralized contact. So this is not public knowledge. So it's very private. So when an auditing standpoint comes in, maybe around regulatory, maybe around you have different wallets. By the way, most of the systems that you're familiar with today are actually all centralized systems. She's talking. So we'll come back to that council question, okay, Cheryl? So imagine if really what you want to do is you want to plug in and say, hey, I want to comply with whatever regulation I have, with whatever country that I'm in, with whatever citizenship I tie to, with whatever incomes I want to actually be in compliance. But at the same time, I want to know the difference between fiat currency and cryptocurrency and how that gets reported. So what if a form pops out and then you can actually use a public key or your public first name and a surname that's a digital to send it in, and actually start building from a reporting standpoint. Or if you want to, you can link socials, you can link what it might, or I guess it's different numbers in different countries. But I hope you understand the ramifications of what you just saw technologically. By the way, Daniela, we still need to consummate a transaction. So why don't you pull that wallet up again? This time, see if you can find Wally, and Cheryl and Wally, see if you can find Wally coin or token. Now think about it. So if it's defined as a token, does it have the same security as possibly a coin where it can actually hit flex? I'm going to try and see if I can show you.
I don't have Wally. I just have Jay.
Okay, so it takes time. Then I think Terrence is just right. It's a matter of time. So actually, I think some. I'm looking for one chart. I want to say it's under assets, but I don't see the assets. It'll be a lot easier once this thing's a live system. Okay, so here we are. So remember that token, reward, and coin. Yeah, Terrence says where's Wally? That's exactly right, Terrence. By the way, thanks for your patience, buddy. We did have something break loose, which is positive news, but we'll talk about it in another forum. So Daniela, if you could go into Clear Rewards.
Yep.
So now what Wally just sent could represent an asset, and what we're going to send. So say receive on your rewards. So Clear Rewards. Let me know when you've got that up, and you can actually share your. There you go. So I'm going to pull this over so folks can see. Try and make it flat if you could. Just hold. Look, there you go. So I just sent her rewards. And the rewards are actually unique because they tie. If you notice here, the rewards actually tie to a certain currency. So that was sent. She just received it. You saw how fast that happened. I think we're in different countries, if I remember right.
Yes, I'm in Canada.
And literally, so think about it. It just went, normally to do a transaction like that, we would need a cross-border bank that would say Canadian dollar gets converted into US dollar. For instance, we have two teams up there in Canada. We have to pay in US and then convert at whatever the fair market value is there, whether that's in Australia, in Hong Kong, in New Zealand, all of these different currencies. We literally have offices, at least the Clear companies do, in 13 different countries, and we use the same medium of transfer that we just showed. So she can literally, if you want to, where did your screen go? What did I do? I think I've got it here. If you want to just show them that you received it, so go push your, yeah, there you go. So you can see she's received it. Push your back button. So you're going to go back so you can see both. And if you actually come over the other way. So notice how it says that she's got 100 Clear rewards and her ClearPay Visa is not there. So she could click on actually getting her ClearPay Visa. And in Canada, it works just fine, where she could put in her name, her date of birth, and her address. Now, what's happening there?
I just forgot to sign up.
No. You don't need to sign up. Let me explain to you before you choose if you want to sign up.
I do.
Well, she's actually, when she gets that Visa, that's going to be a type of off ramp into the fiat world. So it's going to hit a certain dollar. So when she's typing in her name and her date of birth, don't be fooled. Behind the scenes, it knows who she is. And then she validates it with her address. That is the first step in soft KYC, know your customer. There's a hard KYC, which is basically it goes through and does the face, it does the ID, it does everything dynamically. And we will use algorithms, but we'll also use humans to actually validate these processes. And then you use technology to kind of make sure that it's there. I won't talk a lot about that right now, but she could actually take those Clear rewards, get a Visa, and technically she could actually get a digital or a virtual Visa and today, right now, and a physical Visa in 10 days from now. And she can go and she can take that $100 and she can buy herself a foot rub or or, go out to some restaurant or whatever, a meal. The point that I'm trying to drive at is that's an interface around how, and I'm going to pull this over before I forget.
But so that means that is Clear obliged to disclose to Visa?
So the way that we've actually set this up is if you sign up for Clear self-service, we don't link that to your Clear reward side of it. So the payments and the service are separate. 2, when you actually input that data in, it doesn't come to a Clear company. So we don't have that data. We can see that a card was created and that it's been shipped, but we don't validate who that is, so to speak. Now the systems all can. Machine learning and artificial intelligence all day long can actually do this. But what I'm trying to drive awareness to is there's 2 transactions that just happened. Cheryl got a digital asset in the digital world, and Daniela just got another asset that can off-ramp into the fiat world. Now, when she off-ramps it onto that fiat world, for instance, if she puts in those 3 pieces of data, her name, her date of birth, and her address, what happens behind the scenes, it actually creates a bank account in the US that is tied to the US dollar, that actually issues a visa, that ships it to her. She has the ability to use that visa in Canada for Canadian dollars. It uses the foreign exchange to go from US dollars to Canadian dollars, which is pretty close. But let's say it's like renminbi, or let's say it's like IRD, or just different currencies. They all have their own exchange rates, right? So the point that I'm driving at is her converting that reward into the ClearPay Visa is a possible taxable event. Okay. But if like Cheryl actually was able to pay her mortgage, or by the way, that's a token. So you got to understand the difference between a coin, a reward, and a token. So a token can represent value in something, like you own land, like we did this Wally coin, right?
It's like an NFT, right? It's like a
Well, an NFT is a I don't even want to try and link NFT to this, because NFTs are, people actually ask me, what's your favorite NFT? And I said, it's not about NFTs. It's about decentralizing the world.
Yes.
And literally the financial system will reset, the identity system will reset. And then if we so choose, we'll actually have sovereignty and freedom. Go figure.
So a token represents an asset in the physical world, but it's digital, correct? It's the digital version of that asset?
Yes, that's a good representation, but don't just say it's only. Because so for instance, let's say that someone wants to go to an arcade and use a token in an arcade, they can actually convert something from let's say a fiat measurement into a wooden token and put it in a device and have a horsey ride or something. The point that I'm trying to drive at is that's a physical token, but in this digital ecosystem, it could represent a token for a horsey ride. It could represent land. It could represent ownership in a car. It could represent you maybe have, a week in Airbnb somewhere. It could represent anything.
So we'll be able to transact in the digital world, the decentralized digital world. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. And think about tokens are tied to like any kind of commodity. Maybe it's corn, maybe it's an onion, maybe it's a chicken, maybe it's a piggy, maybe, who knows? The future is people have their own ability to create their own value and value exchange associated with an asset, associated with an organization, associated with their decentralized life, who they digitally are, validated by who they physically are and what they do through a reputation around owning their own ID. Instead of having organizations like Equifax that actually lose our data, they put it in one big database and then have it jacked. And then they're like, we're still going to exist as a business. The governments have created immunity where someone can't come after us. Anyways, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you something, Michael. I started a company in the digital world called Danny Scarves, and you want to buy one of my scarves for your wife. how do we transact in the digital world? How do we?
We just did, right? So basically, you actually put up a QR code that I scanned that popped an address on my phone.
How are you paying me with what? What's the currency? What's the exchange?
So let's not use J token, or let's not use Wally token, or I said J coin and Wally token. Let's use what you just got was actually a reward. That reward is just like what we're saying here. So the reward that I gave you was clear reward, not native reward, but
Right.
it's that clear reward is pegged to $1. So in effect, I just sent you equivalent of $100. Okay. That Visa that you get, you can convert that onto that, and you can actually go to the scarf shop or wherever and purchase it.
But what if you and I both want to stay in the decentralized world? You like my scarves. You want to buy one for your wife. How does that work?
You basically light up a website and you say this scarf is worth this many scarf points or scarf coins or scarf rewards or scarf, however you're going to basis. And you have to, so if you say, I'm going to build a business, like let's say, because scarves are an actual physical thing. So are hotel rooms, so are flights.
Right.
Can you use Delta rewards to fly on a plane?
Yes, you can.
Does the value of those Delta rewards fluctuate based upon flight versus flight?
Yeah.
Does the transaction, can you actually sell your Delta rewards to somebody else?
No.
You actually can. Can you actually?
I guess you could.
Yeah. So the same rules apply in the new digital world, but everyone can make up their own value. So let's say that a chicken in Venezuela lays an egg a day versus a chicken in Missouri lays an egg a day. Did you know that the equivalent of $2,400 is what a dozen eggs cost in Venezuela about a year and a half ago? Now think about it. So Venezuela said, you know, the whole system's financially collapsed. Our people are actually starving. And believe it or not, an egg creates subsidy. You can actually sustain life on it. It's one of the, I won't talk about the health benefits, but what I'll drive at is to actually have a chicken that would lay an egg every day is pretty valuable.
Right.
Especially when, let's say, supply chain didn't work. Let's say their crops weren't working. Let's say their currency was so devalued that they couldn't actually come up with $2,400 to buy it. Okay. So what they did as a country is they say, hey, Bitcoin is our new currency, along with 4 other countries within, and actually more within the last 2 years.
San Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
And then they say, oh, Bitcoin, remember, I'm going to come back to this slide. Bitcoin takes 10 minutes to transact. So if you actually want to buy a dozen eggs, are you going to wait there 10 minutes to do it? The government finally figures out and says, hey, that's not working. Let's put this Lightning network on top of Bitcoin that actually lets you check out within like what happens with the Visa world. So it's 3 to 5 seconds. Do you know who owns the Lightning network that just lets them check out instead of 10 minutes, but in 3 to 5 seconds?
I think it's Visa, isn't it?
Yeah, Visa's the one that actually owns a Lightning network. And not only that, they go and create all these patents and all these systems where they think, and by the way, that's another big topic around jurisdictions, patents, infrastructure. That's why 12 years ago we went to New Zealand. There are no software patents, period. Copyright, that's real. Intellectual property laws, those are real. But when you start talking about innovating and you start talking about the future, you know, it's not just around who can do something on paper, because these guys didn't invent it. They just basically said, you know what, we're going to bastardize it the same way that we did the Visa and the swipe. We're going to know who these people are. We're going to know what they're buying. We're going to make money on the spread, and we're going to centralize this system. We're going to centralize banking. We're going to be money changers. Money changers. So when you're really trying to understand what's happening here, It's the digital world creates an ecosystem where people can choose, not just forced into some new platform, but they can choose what they want to do. They can choose how they want to spend things. And you know what? In your own region, you may need to create a value. If you want to really, let's say you're knitting the scarves, okay? Don't you think you should be able to put a fair market value on how much they're worth? And maybe when you're starting up, they're worth a little bit less than they are when they become collector's items. So perception is reality. Who actually creates all the foreign exchange dollar amounts and the differences?
The Federal Reserve.
Yeah. What's Federal Reserve? Because every country creates their own comparisons, each one of them, right? Is it back based?
I don't know. I don't know who to believe anymore. I think
I would just, I would throw out there and say, is it based upon logic? Is it based upon GDP? Is it based upon assets of the country? Is it based upon productivity levels? Is it based on any kind of logic? Or is it legalized gambling where, for instance, well, I won't make that use case. I can't do that. But let's say that there were folks that basically they didn't get emotional about the value of how things go up or down. So, for instance, I'm going to pull up NZD to USD chart.
I think the whole thing is a scam. I think we've been manipulated and scammed and brainwashed. No, but I do. You know what, Michael? I have a hard time trusting anybody anymore because we've just been so bamboozled. And I'm awake, but I just don't know who to trust anymore. I don't.
You already have in your being discernment. You have light, you have discernment. You are a mother, I don't know if you're a grandmother, you're a woman. You have the ability to literally navigate through what we're currently in and what we get to go through, the good and the bad.
Listen, I think it's a gift. I think it's a gift because I think that what's possible for us as a human race, I think is just outstanding if enough of us wake up on time. But it's just, I don't know. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, the frustration that and really elements of fear that I can hear it in your voice is a part of learning. I mean, think about it. Will you appreciate having faith and having peace and joy if you didn't go through fear and sadness? I mean,
Probably not. No, I don't think so. We live in duality, so we can't have one without the other.
Exactly. So you understand, both the war that we get to go into as well as the opportunity that we have. So
100%. I get it.
So one of the big questions is, and I since you're bringing this up and I've got this chart up, what if I told you that we've already built this same system that this is looking at? So what if I told you we can't take it live until we get the voting systems going, and the whole thing blew up because you got to remember the voting system actually has to use a derived key so people can truly vote, but they don't have to provide the identity. I mean, there's so much complexity to it. But what if I told you that you can actually select 150 different currencies today and you can actually already represent them and how the exchange works? So that's one of the questions that'll be coming up right out of the gates as this thing lights up, as the digital world takes shape. But I appreciate everyone's time. I'm happy to take one more question. What we've gone through today, if you really understand what you've seen, it's second to none. It's massively important for humanity, and it's way ahead of its time, even though you look at it and think, well, hey, can we really get there? I would say we're already there. The question is, will we do it united? And will the individual actually be in front of their own choices? Will they be responsible for their own actions? Will they be able to select who they are, where they are, when they go, what they spend, what they create, how they do it? So I'm getting some questions around the councils, and I'll just briefly do this. I'm going to log out of this system here. Actually, let's see if I can open up a new. It may keep me logged in. So for councils, these are the different councils. So responsibility, governing, health, legal, economic, business, developers, that's like software developers, providers, communications, service, consumers, infrastructure, technology, finance, education, and safety. Now, if you want to go in and actually dig into some of you can kind of see folks that are already filling some of these ecosystems. Now, 12 to 13 per council is the target. And the collective councils can actually add or remove other councils. So it doesn't matter what lifetime it's happening in. You can register for a council here. This is a manual process. If you want to do it anonymously, do not use this process. Get a ClearPhone, get an Android phone, use Digital Life. You will be able to log into this system and register for a council without filling out any of this information. Okay. So
Michael, it's Beck from Brisbane here in Australia.
Hi.
I signed up on one of those councils. How do you know if you're accepted into one of them or not? Do you get notified, or how does that work?
Once the ability to actually log in, because we really don't want people to link up identities, but it sounds like you became aware of this through the ClearUnited side of things.
Yeah.
So basically, you're already in the system. But the point that I'm driving at is there will actually be a process where QR codes are accepted, and at that time is when everybody starts seeing how the whole thing fills up. So
right, okay.
Yeah, but we appreciate you filling that out. And there are a lot. By the time this actually goes live, these will all be filled out. So literally, I would say we probably already have 80% of them filled out. Last time I looked was, I don't know, it was probably 3 months ago. So we've
yeah, I know that you said to sign up to one, but I did sign up to two because I actually work in the infrastructure technology area, and so I signed up for the infrastructure council, but then I'm really into health as well, so I also signed up for that one.
What is your first name?
My first name in the digital world is Becca.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so Wally, maybe if you could look up, or at least I don't even know who's managing that. I don't even know where to see it. So basically, it'll be notified. I think through the contact information there. To be honest with you, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
The voting app and the forms is actually how the communication will happen, and that's one of the reasons why we've got to have it nailed just right when we launch. So. We got a question from Susan G. I'm going to try and go find that again. Susan, if you want to ask it, you're welcome to it. Otherwise, I can just read it. If you have a ClearPhone, is ClearLife not Digital Life? Good question. Really good question. So ClearLife and Digital Life are aware of one another. You can only have one master private key set at a time. That is a basic. You cannot have two on the same device. So ClearLife will see if Digital Life tries to get installed, and ClearLife will take the precedent. If Digital Life is on an Android phone that's not a ClearPhone, Digital Life will be able to be installed. You cannot install both at the same time. Digital Life is intended for the digital world and any Android phone. ClearLife is intended for the digital world on a ClearPhone. Really good questions. Because there's so much that goes behind that. So another question is yeah, you're welcome. Another question is, where is Digital Life on the ClearPhone? It's not on the ClearPhone. It will be on the ClearPhone. It will be ClearLife, just like we talked about. Next meeting, so town hall meeting next month will be the first Thursday of the month. And we will talk more about councils. We will talk more about voting. Those are the real triggers that we're waiting on. Yeah, someone says there is no fiat currency promissory note. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that intelligence right there is just absolutely spells it all out. There's a lot of other notes here. I'm actually going to check the other streams. Someone on one of the channels, it looks like a Facebook channel, said, can the digital Can digital address work for Google Maps? Wow, that's a brilliant question too. I will actually answer that. So the simple answer today is no. There is a mapping technology that is equivalent, if not better. And if you purchase some of the other phones, you would have actually seen some of it pre-installed. But there's nothing in that ecosystem today. So good question though. Well, that's a wrap, folks. We will see you next month. If you want to join the weekly calls, it's under the ClearUnited ecosystem. Is primarily focused on what we call the ripple effect, and that's mainly training, learning, understanding, whereas the digital world is going to take shape with people that actually get involved. They actually are part of, whether it's dispute resolutions, identity. There's some amazing things coming around assets. Maybe think about it. I'll just put this in your mind. Do you agree that, or disagree, that there are two types of transactions in the world? People making money and people paying money. So an employer would pay someone money, but they would have had to have made it first. And the person that got paid from the employer uses that to actually pay it out. The second question is, it goes to Terrence's comment, what is money? And if the systems are actually built and governed by no one, not a king. I've been studying colonial law lately, and it's interesting to understand the history and why some of these things actually were created. Whether reputation, I mean, think about Fair Isaacs Corporation or Company as FICO. Those are two individuals' last names that just came up with an algorithm because they actually wanted to offer Sears Roebucks the ability to extend credit. I had someone on my couch earlier today say, I actually bought all of our house appliances at a store just like Sears. And then years later, I went back and I bought something else and I paid for it. And they put my payment, it was a baby carriage. They put my payment on my old account and I had a credit on that account. And then the baby carriage didn't get a payment, so it hurt my credit. How many of us can relate to that reality where another ecosystem actually hurt a credit because something was or was not paid? And what's the dispute process to say this is wrong? Oh, so you can log into a website and say there's a dispute? Well, you know what? You actually just killed the whole credit score system with the ability to dispute it the way that they're doing it. Literally. I mean, I guarantee if someone's got a 500 FICO score on 300 to 850 scale, we could send them some rewards and with about $500, they could take a 500 credit score and bump it up close to 700. That's 200 point bump within like 30 to 60 days. Now you tell me how that's fair to everyone else. You tell me how that reporting and that measurement is real. You tell me how someone like an Equifax can have billions of records stolen. I'm not going to say it was by design. I'm not going to say it wasn't by design. I'm not going to say it was an insider job. I'm going to say it was just stolen. You don't believe me? Here, I'll show you right here. Equifax data breach settlement. Did anybody get a part of that settlement? What was it? $425 million. You know what they did? You know what they actually did to help with that? You know how they paid that $425 million? They hired a credit company to try and provide identity rebuilding because people had their identities stolen. You wonder what people talk about with this black web? That's where this data gets bought and sold. So because they screwed up their life, just like that baby carriage, that was a company that did it. But what if somebody actually uses somebody else's name to actually go and rebuild it? Because think about it. You could go get a new credit card and a new bank account if you know what's the maiden's name, what's the school teacher's name, what's the first pet's name, what's the addresses that you live. I mean, it's not, and I don't want to have you just live in paranoia or concern, because the reality is we are born in a dispensation, most of us on this call, when the digital world, cell phones, internet, none of this stuff existed. right? So it's really our charge to say what's better for the next generation. Is it better that money can actually be programmable? Because let me tell you, what you just got, whether it was Cheryl or Danielle or Wally, those value exchanges went over a technological type infrastructure, borders that are just imaginary, and currency systems that are like, I won't say that they're man-made, but they're really man-made. They're really man-made. We used to have sticks that were money. We used to have chocolate. Then it went to this gold ecosystem because there's scarcity. But it's like, how do you take a pound of gold? I won't get into it, because the point is the way that digital money will operate in the future is actually beautiful. But if this money is not decentralized, humanity will be the biggest slaves. And all we got to do is go look at the history books. The Greeks, the Romans, the Jews, you name it. The different skin colors, different native ecosystems. Anyways, I've already blabbed enough. It's super great to be able to spend time here. We will have some videos of this made. If you have concerns around videos or your information, by the way, when you log in, just use your first name moving forward. But please let us know if there's a concern, because there's actually going to be video segments that are broken up, and then people can actually share them. Like ClearUnited influencers will actually be able to take pieces of these segments and share them out, because that's how we believe that real viral adoption is going to occur. It's not, and you don't need massive adoption for these types of systems to get stood up. But over time, there needs to be an understanding of what it is, how it works, and people need to teach people. So appreciate your time. There's a video that I want.
The one you showed on Tuesday night was awesome.
You like that one? That one came from my better half.
That was an incredible video. It just explains everything it's so succinct, and it was just wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna find that one. I was gonna do a different one, but we'll do that another time.
Oh
No, I totally agree with you, and I love watching it as well. Here we go. Much love, everyone.
We're living in extraordinary times. No matter what you think normal used to be, it's gone now. There is no new normal, yet. Maybe there never will be. But what happened? How did we get here? Well, the story might go something like this. Not too long ago, mankind was in a singular timeline, a very dire and destructive path. All positions of importance and power had been compromised. All major aspects of finance, politics, science, religion, education, and other important fields were under the control of a small group of entities, commonly referred to as the elites and later identified as a cabal. Their singular goal was to form a central world government and a one world currency, and lead all women, men, and children into a new dystopian future with 24/7 surveillance, a new AI-centric religion, and strict rules and regulations that were to be imposed and maintained through a social credit system. Everything was to be digital and controllable through a central command governed 100% by AI, artificial intelligence. The cabal had successfully put their people in key positions of all essential structures: the military, governments, high finance, education, science, medicine, defense. They had acquired and developed technologies many decades or even centuries ahead of what was shown to the public, and used these technologies to steer mankind in their desired direction. Part of their ultimate plan was to reduce the world population drastically in order to more easily control the rest that was to be mainly a servant race, artificially enhanced and moved to fully automated megacities. They were highly organized and seemed all-powerful. They controlled perceived democracies and claimed ownership over everything on Earth. Mankind was in a singular timeline and it seemed as though nothing could be done about it. Within the ranks of government, the military, and the private sector, however, something extraordinary began to happen. A growing number of people within these structures experienced strange things and began to question the path they were on and the path mankind was on. Like a growing group of people in the civilian world, they started seeing bigger patterns, connected the dots, and had spiritual epiphanies. Truth began to emerge within them and help them to see more clearly. Pretty soon, this group of people began connecting with each other, realizing that something needed to happen, something drastic. Mankind itself was at stake. From here on out, we shall call them the initiators. The initiators began forming a plan, but it wasn't just any plan. It was the grandmother of all plans. At the center, at the very core, was the idea to assist mankind in the most important and significant process of our times, today known as the Great Awakening. Their goal was simple. The execution was not. What began was the most complex and sophisticated operation ever conducted. Unlike other undertakings, this operation wasn't linear in its timing. It actually operated outside of our perception of time, reaching forward, backward, and into all other aspects of time. It required controlled, open, and hidden opposition. All conceivable possibilities were included, and a plethora of strategies were deployed simultaneously. Once the plan was in motion, communication among the orchestrators were minimal and highly encoded and encrypted. Players were positioned and activated, agents and non-agents deployed, and sleepers, meaning people who have been prepared and trained for future operations, were activated. But this plan wasn't military in its nature. It was actually a spiritual plan, using all methods known and unknown to the public today. Loss, suffering, chaos, and even destruction were included in the calculations. After a period of time, essential structures and positions had been overtaken by the initiators. Contrary to the belief and strategy of their opponents, the Cabal, the initiators did not seize control for power's sake. Their strategy was vastly different. They played by a different set of rules, the universal laws, and knew they couldn't change timelines by themselves. Their aim, their goal, their vision was entirely different. They needed the people to regain power over themselves and ultimately take back power and control of all essential structures on Earth. Their plan was to inspire the people to become aware of their own power again. They couldn't simply take over and tell the people what had been going on Earth for centuries and possibly millennia. They couldn't simply unplug the matrix. The people had to see, had to feel, had to hear the truth themselves. They had to discover it on their own. So the initiators created a somewhat controlled environment in which they allowed for aspects of their opponents' plans to play out. They made sure that more and more of the Cabal's true motives and goals would be revealed. The initiators knew that the more people were awakening to the truth, the more truth would become visible. They understood the universal laws and worked with them rather than against them. They also knew that they themselves could not fundamentally change what was going to happen. It had to be the people who would make the changes. The initiators infiltrated all parties, all movements, whether they were for or against their plans. They made sure the truth became visible. Mankind all across the earth slowly began to awaken. With every wave of newly awakened people, more energy was inserted into the plan. It was fluent, dynamic, interdimensional, and no one person will ever fully grasp the full picture of it, including the initiators themselves. The effects of the operation began to reach so many people that gradually a new timeline began to form. This, as it became clearer and clearer, wasn't a new timeline, it was mankind's original timeline. A timeline of freedom, spiritual maturity, harmony, and unity. It was the divinely inspired timeline. As this timeline emerged, radical shifts began to happen. Portals began to open and the transformational stage of the plan had started. This also presented the most dangerous part of the operation. As both timelines became visible and even measurable, the Cabal truly began to panic. They intensified their operation, accelerated their own dystopian timeline, and began to disregard even the last few rules they had previously played by. Their power was greatly diminished, but they too had aces up their sleeves. A war within a war began. A script within a show, within a movie. More confusion, more chaos, more panic, and more truth. This too was anticipated by the initiators, and they knew it had to be experienced by all nonetheless. It could not be avoided. The people could not be spared unless they themselves took charge and changed it. The operation was conducted in a way that every linear approach to figure it out would have to lead to a dead end. The multi-dimensionality and the layered approach made it nearly impossible to counter-infiltrate and alter it. The plan had no end date, no final solution, no reachable goal. It needed to lead to one inevitable outcome though. For better or worse, the people had to regain control. The people had to stand up. The people had to forge their own future once again. They had to reach a point where they could see the timelines, the dystopian, dark, controlled one, and the free, empowered, and harmonious one. And then they had to choose. This is where we're at right now. This is where we stand. As the grandest operation of all time is unfolding, as generals, agents, lightworkers, prayer and healer warriors, peacekeepers, sleepers, and all others are working tirelessly behind the scenes and out in the open, mankind must make a choice. It cannot be decided for them. This is the moment. Which timeline will you choose? It's up to you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month. Thank you for your time and for caring. Talk to you soon.